Thanks for tuning in to EskimoTV, your home for icy and chilly movie reviews. I'm your host, Jason Escamilla. Ralph Breaks the Internet is the sequel to the 2012 film Wreck-It Ralph, which was one of my favorite animated films that year. I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was awesome. I had really high expectations for this movie. I thought this was going to be the Coco of last year. I really loved Coco. That was actually my favorite film of 2017. And a lot of buzz was saying that this sequel had potential to be better than the first one. There's a lot of people that like this sequel more than the original. And I was a bit disappointed. This is not a bad movie. This is a really good movie that I think you can go watch. You can take your kids. You can have a fun time. And that's what this movie was. It was fun. But it was not great. It was not phenomenal. It's not a animated film that I think I'm going to be watching in 5 years. It was just a fun one-timer animated movie that I think you should probably go check out. I personally had higher expectations for it, but I think most people are going to like this movie. In this film, we have John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman who play Ralph and Vanellope, and they are on a mission to find a controller for Vanellope's video game that breaks when a crazy teenager is playing the game and the controller breaks. It's kind of Ralph's fault. You can kind of see that when you watch the movie. And they're on a mission to go to eBay to find this controller for the game and order it before the owner of the arcade shop closes the game down forever and Vanellope has no permanent home. I thought that this movie was very creative. There was a lot of good elements in the internet. They go into the internet to find this controller. They have to go to eBay. And the way the internet's portrayed was very well done. I liked it. It did not feel like the Emoji Movie where it just felt like a bunch of marketing for all these companies. My main problem with this movie, though, is it was very sporadic. It had me for the beginning, but once we get to the middle and towards the end, I just felt like it was doing too much. I felt like this movie could have been a TV show that lasted 6 episodes. There's different segments where Ralph and Vanellope are going to one video game, and then they're 30-45 minutes later, they're in a completely different area focusing on something completely different. 30-45 minutes later, they're in a new environment. And that's not to say you can't have an adventure that takes you different places, but it felt just very formulaic. They go so many places, and the places they go, they meet a lot of side characters. You have Gal Gadot, who plays a character from a video game that Vanellope really likes, and you have Taraji P. Henson, who plays this character who's like the algorithm of their version of YouTube. And I don't really know much about these characters. There's so many side characters, and I just felt emotionally disconnected, which I know this is a cartoon film, but we've seen that animated films have the power to draw you in and make you feel like some of these characters are real. We've seen that in Toy Story, Ratatouille, Coco, and I just felt like this film lacked that. There are some emotional moments in this movie. That's not to say that this movie does not have a heartwarming message that can get the emotions out of some people. There are emotions. I just felt like it lacked the punch that I think I've seen some other animated films pull off a little bit better. And I think one of the reasons why this film lacks that punch is it tries to say a lot of good things. There's a lot of good messages in this movie that I think you can take from it. We see in the beginning that Vanellope is content with her video game that she exists in, but she feels kind of bored. There's no spontaneous things happening in her world, and there's a lesson to be learned from that. There's a lesson with Ralph, who is afraid to let Vanellope venture off into another video game world because he wants to hold her close, and so about letting your best friends go and doing something they pursue, even if that means being detached from them. There were some really deep lessons in this movie, but I did feel like there was just a lot in this movie, and there's a message about not letting social media affect you, which, you know, I've had to deal with being a YouTuber. There's always people leaving crazy comments, and so there's messages in this movie that are good. I just felt like it was a little bit all over the place, like they couldn't pick one thing. It's like, let's teach them about this, and this, and I feel like because they focused on so much, they didn't really get the punch as much as they could have had they just focused on a couple of lessons. There's a song that's in this movie that I absolutely despised. Sarah Silverman, who plays Vanellope, is not a singer, and I had to endure singing that was awful for a few minutes, and it was all to kind of make fun of the fact that every Disney princess sings, and she's a princess, and so we're gonna give her a song to sing. It was funny for about 10 seconds, and then I had to hear the rest of the song go on for about 3 minutes, and it was just 3 minutes too long. I did not like the song. I felt like that needed to be cut or shortened. I felt like it would have been funny had it been a mashup of classic Disney songs that I already kind of like, from like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Little Mermaid. Had it been like a pieces of all these iconic songs with replaced lyrics, but it was just a very generic, uncatchy song that's forgettable, and it was sung terribly. So that was a waste of time. And towards the end of the film, it was a bit predictable. I already knew what was gonna happen, and I was just waiting for the film to end. I wasn't necessarily bored out of my mind. The animation was beautiful, it was creative, but when you already know what's gonna happen, there's a lack of suspense, and I just think that this is not a movie you will be terribly bored in. It's not a movie you're gonna hate, but it might be a movie that towards the end you're like, alright, is it almost over? I think I get the gist. And this movie could have ended at 2 or 3 different places. There's times where I thought, okay, it's conclusive, it's over. Oh no, now this other plot that we have to deal with. And I get it, it made it feel more conclusive, but I just felt like it overstayed its welcome by just a little bit. However, I do think kids are gonna love the adventure. I do think this movie is beautifully animated. I do think this movie has something to say, and I think it's a cute family film that you will enjoy. It disappointed me just because I think I had surreal high expectations for it, but it is not a bad movie. This is a good movie that I hope you enjoy, and I wanna know what you think about it. And so, I'm gonna give Ralph Breaks the Internet a B-. I love talking about movies, but one thing I love more is talking about movies with you. So leave a comment if you have an opinion or a question that you'd like to share regarding Wreck-It Ralph 2 or Ralph Breaks the Internet. I'd love to know what you think. You can also subscribe to me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at EskimoTV. And if you enjoyed this review, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more icy and chilly Eskimo TV reviews.